Oi, what's happening? I'm Eddie, the Skinhead Gourmet. Today we're going to be making pasta dough. Today we're going to be making a fresh pasta dough. We're going to be doing more of a northern Italian style pasta. We're going to be using 3 eggs, 2 cups of flour, about 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil, and about a half a teaspoon of salt. And what we're going to be doing, it's very simple. Most of it's just going to involve a little bit of mixing. Our first step is we're going to take our flour, we're going to make a little mound, and we're going to start, and we're going to make a little well in the middle of it. If you've ever watched a TV cooking show where they're making pasta, you always see this being done. And for a very good reason. It makes for a very convenient area to mix your dough. And with pasta dough, you don't want to handle it too much, so you don't want to use an electric mixer. You're best making it by hand. But we're going to take our flour, we're going to crack 3 eggs directly into the middle of our well. Very few tools you actually need, one of which would be a fork you're going to use to go in. You're going to want to break up your egg yolks and just very gently kind of mix them together just to get the egg and the yolk somewhat mixed. After we see that they're broken up, we can discard our fork. What we're going to do is start slowly incorporating everything together. Don't be afraid to make a little bit of a mess. This is going to be a somewhat messy process, but totally worth it. For those of you who don't want to get your hands completely dirty, a dough scraper is a super handy tool to have. But as you can see, our flour and our eggs are somewhat together and they're becoming very stiff and a little bit harder to work with. So you're going to want to mound this up into a ball, make a hole in the ball. This is where we're going to add our oil directly in. And we're going to get our salt. We're going to kind of put it around the rim of the hole. And we're going to continue working and getting this all mixed together. That little bit of oil is going to give a little bit of moisture to the dough and make it a little bit easier to work with. Unfortunately, one of the things about this is you don't want it to be too loose or you won't make a very good pasta dough. And from there we're going to kind of go through a process of folding, pulling, and folding and just kind of mixing everything together. Now you can smash it. Basically we're kneading this dough out a little bit. You only want to do this for a minute or two. And once it's looking very uniform, we're going to take it and we're going to let it rest for a moment. So we've got our dough mixed together. I'm going to transfer it over to, I'm using a floured baking sheet. You can always use your counter. If you have a big marble slab, that's great. But this is where we're going to be rolling out the dough. And you'll want to grab either a rolling pin, or if you don't have a rolling pin like me, a wine bottle with a little saran wrap. That will actually do the trick very well. But we're going to want to start rolling this dough out and getting it nice and flat and thin. And you'll want to roll your pasta a little bit. You can flip it over. Make sure you're getting some of the flour that's on your surface onto it. It's going to help it to keep from sticking to your rolling pin or the counter that you're rolling out your pasta dough on. You can flip this a couple times if it makes it seem like it's coming out easier. But we're actually shooting for a size, it's going to be almost the size of this baking sheet. Right here, we're going to want to get a nice thin dough. We're going to want this spread nice and flat and even. If your dough's starting to roll out and you're running out of space, you can always take your scraper, cut your dough in half, and start working with the halves separately. You don't want to end up with a thicker than you want pasta just because you've run out of space. And right here is about a nice thickness for where you want to go for on your pasta. As thin as you can get it, the better. Because you're going to want it to cook fast, cook evenly, and you don't want it to sit too heavily on your stomach once you do eat it. So we've got our dough rolled out to the desired thickness, and from here you have to decide what shape you want to go with, and that's basically your last task. If you want to do a linguine, you can take a knife, put this on a cutting board, square it off, cut your strips to the size you like. You can cut small long strips and roll them flat so you could make a spaghetti. I'm actually going to be making a ravioli or an agnolotti with this. So I'm actually going to take a small food ring or a cookie cutter, and you can start cutting out the size pasta that you want. Also, for whatever reason you'd like to do little pasta discs, this would work great. So I've got my little circles cut out, and I'm ready to start stuffing these and making little raviolis. One thing you can do with this fresh pasta, you want to let it sit for about a half hour after you finish with it, just to let it rest before you cook it. Or you can get it, lay it out on a flat sheet like this so it has time to dry and freeze. You can freeze it for about a month or two, and then when you're ready to cook it, take it directly from the freezer to some boiling hot salted water, and you've got wonderful homemade pasta you've made yourself. Thanks for watching. I'm Eddie, the Skinhead Gourmet. Boy, and bon appetit. I've been dreaming from you, no show, no